Before protein powders lined supplement store shelves and before anyone tracked macros on smartphone apps, old Hollywood's strongest men were building legendary physiques the hard way, with raw instinct, studio pressure, and eating habits that range from Spartan discipline to borderline insane. These weren't actors faking strength for the camera. These were Olympic swimmers, professional boxers, Mr. Universe champions, and pro athletes who brought real power to the screen. Their diets reflected a forgotten era of fitness. No sports science, no metabolic calculators, just mountains of steak, dozens of eggs, gallons of milk, and occasionally some truly wild nutritional experiments that would make modern trainers lose their minds. The golden age of Hollywood demanded physical presence. When you were cast as Hercules or Tarzan, audiences expected genuine muscle. Studios didn't have CGI to fake it. You either showed up with the goods or you lost the role. That pressure created a generation of actors who ate like warriors preparing for battle. Some followed clean, ahead of their time whole food diets. Others treated every meal like a strongman competition, packing away enough calories to fuel a small army. A few discovered unusual dietary philosophies that somehow worked. And at least one muscular leading man openly admitted he hated exercise and loved ice cream, coasting on pure genetics while his peers suffered through egg and steak marathons. This is the story of 15 men who built their bodies before the fitness industry existed, when old Hollywood diets meant trial and error, when vintage bodybuilding nutrition was passed down in gym whispers, and when the craziest eating routines became a foundation of classic movie star strength. From 1950s muscle stars to golden age fitness pioneers, these extreme celebrity diets reveal how Hollywood's original strongman actors fueled their frames with nothing but determination and some truly unusual eating routines. Steve Reeves, the bodybuilder who ate like a Spartan. Steve Reeves didn't just play Hercules. He looked like the god himself walked off Mount Olympus. But his secret weapon wasn't the massive steak binges you'd expect. Reeves built his legendary physique on something shockingly modern, a clean, high-carbohydrate diet that fitness experts wouldn't mainstream for another 40 years. His morning ritual alone would confuse today's keto warriors. He'd combine chopped apple, grated carrot, raw oatmeal, wheat germ, bee pollen, bran, almonds, honey, and goat's milk into a muesli-style power bowl that packed complex carbs and micronutrients. Lunch typically featured cottage cheese mixed with nuts and raisins, plus 2 pieces of fresh fruit. Dinner meant salad, lean fish like swordfish, vegetables, and whole grains. His macro split reportedly hit 60% carbohydrates, with the rest divided between protein and fat, radically different from the meat-dominant plans his bodybuilding peers followed. Reeves imposed strict rules on himself. No smoking, minimal alcohol, no stimulant of any kind, and early bedtime to maximize recovery. He treated nutrition like a science experiment decades before sports nutrition became an actual science. While other strongman actors were slamming steaks at every meal, Reeves was quietly revolutionizing old Hollywood nutrition secrets with a plant-forward approach that kept him lean, powerful, and injury-free throughout his career. Reg Park, the steak and milk mass builder. If Steve Reeves was a thoughtful nutritionist of golden age fitness, Reg Park was a human furnace who ate like mass building was an Olympic sport. The 3-time Mr. Universe and mentor to Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't mess around with portion control or balance macros. Park's approach was brutally simple. Eat enormous quantities of the densest foods available and lift weights until your body had no choice but to grow. Reports from the era describe him consuming steak twice daily, downing a dozen eggs, and drinking up to 8 pints of milk when bulking for competition. 8 pints. That's a gallon of dairy in a single day, on top of everything else. Biographies and physical culture historians estimate Park regularly hit 5 to 6,000 calories daily, built almost entirely from meat, eggs, potatoes, and dairy products. No fancy supplements. No meal replacement shakes. Just animal protein and starch piled onto plates until the scale moved upward. This was the pure mass-at-any-cost philosophy of pre-steroid era bodybuilding, where gaining muscle meant eating like you were preparing for hibernation. Park's insane steak and eggs diet became legendary in bodybuilding circles, a blueprint for every hard gainer who struggled to add weight. His eating habits sound less like nutrition and more like a strongman dare, the kind of vintage bodybuilding approach that built physiques so impressive they define what Hercules should look like on screen. Gordon Scott, the Tarzan diet of pure volume. Gordon Scott went from California lifeguard to Hollywood's most muscular Tarzan, and he did it under the guidance of legendary trainer Vince Gironda, whose nutritional philosophy shaped countless physiques in the 1950s. While Scott's exact daily menu wasn't documented in studio records, his consistently full chest and arms across multiple Tarzan films tell the story of a man eating serious volume. Garanda favored a high-protein, low-junk approach built around steak, eggs, cottage cheese, cream, salads, and minimal refined carbohydrates, essentially the physical culture diet that separated serious bodybuilders from casual gym-goers. Scott likely consumed massive amounts of these staples to maintain his size during brutal jungle set filming schedules that demanded constant physical performance. Swinging from vines and wrestling rubber crocodiles burns calories fast. Maintaining that classic movie star strength meant eating like strength was your full-time job. Historians and fans have reconstructed his likely eating patterns from Garanda's documented methods and Scott's visible results. Multiple high-protein meals throughout the day, plenty of healthy fats from cream and eggs, vegetables for micronutrients, and enough overall calories to keep his frame filled out under hot studio lights. This was old Hollywood diets at their most functional. Food as fuel for performance, not pleasure. Scott's physique proved the formula worked, even if the exact portions remain part of Hollywood's forgotten nutrition history. Mickey Hargitay, Mr. Universe, and his meat-dominant menu. Mickey Hargitay won Mr. Universe in 1955 and married Jane Mansfield, becoming one half of Hollywood's most photogenic power couple. But his physique wasn't built on Hollywood glamour. It was constructed in the gym with a bodybuilder's discipline and a meat-dominant menu that emphasized lean proteins, complex carbs, and healthy fats across multiple daily meals. Reconstructions of his typical eating day paint a picture of old-school muscle nutrition. Breakfast featured eggs and oatmeal with fruit. Lunch brought lean meats like chicken alongside whole grains and vegetables, and dinner repeated the protein and carbs formula with bigger portions. Hargitay's approach lacked the gimmicks that define some contemporary strongman diets. He wasn't experimenting with vegetarian phases or chugging gallons of milk. He simply ate balanced bodybuilder meals with enough volume to support his training and maintain his competition-ready physique year-round. This consistency separated champions from also-rans in the golden age bodybuilding scene. Where some actors ate wildly during bulking phases and crashed on restrictive cuts, Hargitay maintained steady portions of quality foods and trusted the process. His diet emphasized plenty of fruits and vegetables alongside the mandatory protein, showing more nutritional awareness than many of his era. The extreme part wasn't bizarre food combinations or dangerous restrictions. It was a sheer discipline of eating clean bodybuilder meals day after day, year after year, while Hollywood parties and Jane Mansfield's celebrity lifestyle swirled around him. Clint Walker, the giant cowboy who ate simple but huge. At 6'6", with a naturally massive frame that made him perfect for TV Cheyenne, Clint Walker built his physique on farm-style simplicity scaled up to giant proportions. Detailed diet records don't exist, but anecdotes from people who knew him later describe a man committed to whole foods, organic chicken, quality beef and fish, excellent fruits and vegetables, and a general avoidance of processed junk. This matches what you'd expect from someone who grew up doing manual labor and maintained an outdoor lifestyle. Walker likely ate enormous portions of straightforward American food: meat, potatoes, bread, milk, eggs, the kind of rancher's diet that fueled physical work before anyone worried about optimizing macros. The crazy part wasn't what he ate, but how much. Moving a frame that size through Western fight scenes and horseback stunts required massive calorie intake, and Walker's naturally lean, muscular build suggested his body processed that fuel efficiently. He didn't need complicated meal timing or supplement stacks. He ate big plates of real food, and his genetics did the rest. This was the ultimate expression of 1950s muscle stars who succeeded through simplicity, good ingredients, large quantities, consistent training. Walker embodied the classic Hollywood cowboy aesthetic precisely because his diet matched his on-screen persona, rugged, unpretentious, and built on fundamentals that actually worked. No fancy nutrition secrets, just a giant man eating like one. Woody Strode, athlete's fuel before sports nutrition existed. Woody Strode brought legitimate athletic credentials to Hollywood. Football star, decathlete, and physique so impressive that director Stanley Kubrick featured him shirtless in Spartacus despite limited screen time. Strode maintained his 6'3", 205-pound shredded frame through notoriously brutal training. Reports describe him performing 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 squats, and 1,000 sit-ups daily even while filming. That volume demands serious fuel. While exact menus weren't documented, Strode's background as a serious multi-sport athlete means he almost certainly followed a high-protein, moderate-carb diet built around big plates with few frills, meat, eggs, vegetables, and staple carbs like rice or potatoes. This was athlete eating before sports nutrition became a science. No amino acid timing, no carb cycling, just instinctive fueling for performance. The crazy part was a contrast. Spartan, simple food paired with insane training volume to produce a body that looked carved from stone. Strode's approach represented old Hollywood fitness at its most disciplined. Muscles built through consistency rather than complicated nutrition protocols. His diet likely resembled what football players ate in team cafeterias. Substantial portions of protein and carbohydrates designed to rebuild muscle torn down by extreme physical demands. Strode proved you didn't need supplements or exotic meal plans to build an unforgettable physique. You needed discipline, work ethic, and enough quality food to support both. Johnny Weissmuller, the swimmer who lived on energy foods. Johnny Weissmuller won 5 Olympic gold medals in swimming before becoming Hollywood's most iconic Tarzan, and his dietary journey included one of old Hollywood's strangest nutrition experiments. During his athletic prime, Weissmuller became fascinated with Dr. John Harvey Kellogg's holistic health philosophy and visited the famous Battle Creek Sanitarium, where Kellogg put the champion swimmer on a vegetarian diet, a radical move in an era when athletes believed meat built strength. The shocking result? Weissmuller broke his own swimming records after adopting the plant-based plan, becoming one of the earliest examples of plant-powered athletic performance decades before it became trendy. His typical swimming diet likely emphasized carbohydrates for energy, bread, cereals, fruit, plus lean proteins, and enough overall calories to fuel the endless training sessions that made him unbeatable in the pool. This was Olympic athlete nutrition in its most intuitive form. Eat foods that provide sustained energy, avoid anything that slows you down, and consume enough volume to replace what brutal training burns off. Weissmuller's willingness to experiment with vegetarianism shows how even Golden Age athletes understood that performance mattered more than dietary dogma. After his Hollywood career, he emphasized staying active and eating right foods well into his 60s, proving the habits built during his competitive years carried him through decades. His crazy diet move wasn't gimmicky. It was genuinely ahead of its time. Buster Crabbe, Flash Gordon's Olympic caliber diet. Buster Crabbe won Olympic gold in the 400-meter freestyle at the 1932 Games before becoming Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, and another Hollywood Tarzan. His dietary approach reflected the straightforward athlete nutrition of his era. High-calorie fuel built from bread, fruit, eggs, meat, and milk. Nothing exotic, just volume. What made Crabbe's eating habits notable wasn't bizarre food combinations, but remarkable longevity. In 1974, at age 66, he told interviewers he stayed fit through swimming and eating the right foods, suggesting he maintained disciplined eating habits for over 40 years. That consistency is the crazy part. Most actors let themselves go after their action hero days end. Crabbe kept his athlete's mindset for life. His 1930s Olympic diet would have been simple by modern standards: carbohydrates for swimming energy, protein for muscle recovery, and enough fat to support overall health. No one tracked micronutrients or worried about inflammation back then. You ate what worked and adjusted based on how you felt and performed. Crabbe's emphasis on foods that grow in the earth and regular swimming kept him lean, and active decades passed when most men slowed down. This was vintage bodybuilding nutrition at its most sustainable, not extreme restriction or dangerous bulking, but a balanced approach to fueling performance that proved effective across an entire lifetime. His real dietary secret was simply never stopping the habits that built his Olympic body. Jim Brown, football power translated to the big screen. Jim Brown brought legitimate physical dominance from the NFL to Hollywood. Widely considered one of the greatest football players in history before becoming an action star. Moving his 230-pound frame through Cleveland Browns defenses required massive calorie intake. And while Brown's exact daily menu wasn't extensively documented, his athletic background tells a story. As a 1960s power running back, he would consume huge servings of team cafeteria staples: meat, potatoes, bread, milk, and whatever else fueled the brutal physical punishment of professional football. This was big eating before engineered sports nutrition. No custom meal plans or supplement protocols, just large portions of regular food designed to rebuild broken down muscle and replace spent energy. Brown distinguishes era as less supplement-driven than modern athletics, suggesting his nutrition philosophy emphasized whole foods over powders and pills. The extreme element was simply volume, the sheer quantity of calories needed to maintain playing weight while absorbing hits from defensive linemen every Sunday. When Brown transitioned to acting, he carried that athlete's eating mentality to action roles, maintaining a powerful physique that made his on-screen presence genuinely intimidating. His diet represented the typical heavy athlete fare of his time. Not fancy or complicated, just a lot of it. That approach built one of football's most unstoppable bodies, proving that sometimes the craziest nutrition secret is having no secret at all. Just consistent hard work fueled by substantial amounts of quality food. Charles Bronson, the miner-turned-movie tough guy. Charles Bronson emerged from Pennsylvania coal mines to become Hollywood's hardest tough guy, and his physique reflected working-class grit rather than bodybuilding science. His background involved heavy physical labor, boxing, and later a deliberate fitness education that introduced him to structured diet and training. Retrospectives describe Bronson following a stringent diet alongside daily calisthenics, push-ups, sit-ups, rope climbing, and running, but don't detail specific foods. The likely menu was simple, hearty working-class meals: meat, potatoes, bread, and basic vegetables. As Bronson aged and his acting career demanded he maintain a lean, wiry physique even into his 50s, he probably tightened up portion control and reduced junk food while keeping the fundamentals. This was minimalist nutrition. No exotic superfoods or complicated meal timing, just consistent discipline around straightforward ingredients. The crazy part was his dedication to that boring consistency year after year, maintaining fight-ready conditioning decades past when most men let themselves go. Bronson's diet philosophy matched his on-screen persona: tough, no-nonsense, stripped of unnecessary frills. He ate to fuel hard work, not to pose in bodybuilding magazines. That approach produced a body that looked genuinely dangerous rather than gym pretty. Lean muscle built through labor and maintained through Spartan eating habits. His nutrition legacy represents old Hollywood diets at their most functional. Food as fuel for a hard life, portioned carefully enough to stay ready for action. Jack Palance, the boxer who ate for power. Jack Palance fought professionally as a boxer, going 15-0 before stopping his ring career, and that fighter's background shaped both his physique and his eating approach. Pre-World War II boxers followed straightforward nutrition: meat for protein, eggs for recovery, bread and potatoes for energy, some fruit for vitamins, big but plain meals designed to build power without excess body fat. Palance would have eaten these classic fighter staples during his boxing days, developing habits that carried into his Hollywood career. While no detailed menu survives, his famous one-arm push-ups at the 1992 Academy Awards, performed at age 73, prove he maintained lean, functional strength well into old age. That longevity suggests disciplined eating throughout his life, avoiding the indulgent Hollywood lifestyle that softened other actors. The extreme element wasn't bizarre food choices, but remarkable consistency, sticking to old-school fighter fare when easier options surrounded him constantly. Palance embodied a type of actor Hollywood rarely celebrates: the legitimately tough working-class fighter who brought real physical credibility to villain roles. His diet supported that image: simple, powerful, built on fundamentals that actually worked. No supplements, no trendy superfoods, no complicated protocols. Just fighters' food eaten with fighters' discipline across 7 decades. That approach kept him strong enough to drop and do push-ups on national television at an age when most men struggle climbing stairs, proving that sometimes the craziest diet move is simply never breaking good habits. Victor Mature, epic star with an epic appetite. Victor Mature starred in Hollywood's biggest biblical epics: Samson and Delilah, The Robe, Demetrius, and the Gladiators. His muscular frame perfect for ancient strongmen. But Mature's dietary secret was hilariously simple. He didn't really have one. Unlike every other name on this list, Mature openly admitted he loathed exercise and was fond of ice cream. Once called himself the biggest fraud that ever hit Hollywood because he didn't train much. His muscular build came primarily from genetics, and his eating habits lean more toward indulgent portions and treats than disciplined bodybuilder meals. Obituaries note his love of ice cream specifically, suggesting a man who enjoyed food rather than treating it as pure fuel. Once his epic film era ended and maintaining screen-ready conditioning mattered less, Mature likely ate even more freely. The crazy part is how he got away with it, building a career playing history's strongest men while following none of the extreme eating protocols his peers endured. This makes him the perfect contrast piece in any discussion of classic movie star strength, proof that sometimes genetics matter more than discipline, and that old Hollywood had room for both the steak and eggs warriors and the guys who coasted on natural gifts while eating dessert. Mature's diet was refreshingly honest in an era of manufactured fitness mythology. Sometimes you just win the genetic lottery and enjoy the ride. Chuck Connors, the athlete cowboy eating for size. Chuck Connors remains one of the rarest athletes in American history. He played both Major League Baseball and NBA basketball before becoming television's iconic rifleman. Moving his 6'6" frame through two professional sports in the 1940s and 50s required enormous calorie intake, though specific daily menus weren't preserved in accessible records. What's certain is that dual sport pro athletes ate massive quantities of training camp cafeteria food: steak, eggs, milk, sandwiches, potatoes, and whatever else team nutritionists provided, plus substantial portions athletes piled on themselves at home. Connors likely consumed 5,000 to 6,000 calories daily just to maintain playing weight across baseball seasons and basketball campaigns. The crazy part is volume. How much he probably ate to fuel that size through years of professional athletics, followed by physically demanding Western roles. His eating habits would have reflected standard big athlete nutrition of his era. Substantial protein portions, plenty of carbohydrate for energy, and enough overall food to prevent weight loss during grueling schedules. No fancy supplements or engineered nutrition, just the old-school athlete's approach of eating large amounts of quality food consistently. Connors proved that sometimes extreme diets are simply about scale, taking normal meals and multiplying portions to match extraordinary physical demands. That straightforward abundance built a body capable of competing at the highest levels in two major sports, then translating that athleticism into a Hollywood career built on rugged physical presence. John Saxon, martial artist with methodical nutrition. John Saxon brought genuine martial arts skills to Hollywood, Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon, and maintaining interest in functional strength training throughout his life. Strength coach Pavel Tsatsouline later mentioned Saxon walking into a bodyweight training seminar, showing a continued dedication to performance-based fitness decades into his career. While no specific food log survives, Saxon's martial arts orientation would have demanded a different nutritional approach than bodybuilders chasing maximum size. His diet likely featured moderate portions of lean meats, eggs, vegetables, and complex carbohydrates, designed to maintain low body fat, while supporting the explosive power and endurance martial arts require. This was eating for function rather than bulk. Smaller, cleaner portions aimed at keeping body weight controlled while maximizing mobility and recovery. The extreme element was precision rather than volume, carefully managing intake to stay lean and quick rather than eating massive amounts to pack on muscle mass. Saxon represented a quieter type of old Hollywood fitness, less about visible size and more about genuine functional capability. His dietary approach probably resembled what dedicated martial artists ate throughout the 20th century: whole foods, reasonable portions, minimal indulgence, and a constant awareness that excess body fat slows you down. That disciplined approach kept him action-ready throughout a long career, proving that crazy diets don't always mean eating enormous quantities. Sometimes extremism is in carefully controlled moderation, maintained year after year. Alan Steele Sergio Ciani, the Italian Hercules with a bodybuilder's menu. Alan Steele was actually Italian bodybuilder Sergio Ciani, who became a star of 1960s Sword and Sandals peplum films, playing Hercules and various mythological strongmen opposite other muscle-bound actors in Rome's thriving B-movie industry. Sources described Ciani as a dedicated bodybuilder before, during, and after his film career, reportedly continuing serious training even after retiring from acting. While specific daily menus aren't extensively documented, 1960s European bodybuilding followed predictable patterns. Meat and fish as primary protein sources, lots of eggs for amino acids, pasta or rice for carbohydrates, minimal sweets, and frequent meals spread throughout the day to maintain steady nutrient flow. Johnny would have eaten multiple high-protein meals daily, emphasizing volume and frequency over any particular exotic ingredients. This was the classic high-protein, multiple meals a day bodybuilder diet that dominated Italian physique culture during the Peplum boom, when dozens of muscular actors competed for roles requiring legitimately impressive builds. The extreme factor was long-term consistency, maintaining bodybuilder discipline across decades, even when film roles dried up and public attention moved elsewhere. Steele's commitment to training and nutrition well past his Hollywood prime suggests someone who genuinely loved the bodybuilding lifestyle rather than viewing physique development as merely a means to acting work. That dedication represents vintage bodybuilding nutrition at its purest, treating food as building material in the body as a lifelong project where continuous investment. These 15 men built legendary physiques in an era when nobody understood protein synthesis, when macros weren't even a concept, and when the closest thing to a supplement was a raw egg cracked into milk. They relied on instinct, trial and error, gym whispers passed between training partners, and sheer stubborn willpower. Some 8 clean decades before clean eating became fashionable. Others consumed quantities of meat and dairy that would horrify modern nutritionists. A few experimented with approaches so unusual they'd be called biohacking today. And at least one admitted he mostly coasted on genetics, while everyone else suffered through discipline. What united them was necessity. Studios demanded physical presence. Audiences expected real muscle. CGI couldn't save you. You either showed up with a body or lost a role to someone who did. That pressure created nutritional approaches ranging from methodical to borderline insane. But every approach worked for the man who followed it. Steve Reeves proved high-carb diets could build Hercules. Reg Park showed that steak and milk mass monsters could dominate bodybuilding. Johnny Weissmuller broke records on a vegetarian diet when meat was considered essential. These weren't accidents. They were proof that the human body adapts to consistent stimulus and adequate fuel, regardless of whether that fuel comes from fashionable sources. Modern fitness culture owes these men more than most realize. They pioneered physique acting, proving that moviegoers would pay to watch genuinely impressive bodies perform. They experimented with nutrition when doing so meant ignoring conventional wisdom and trusting your gut, sometimes literally. And they maintained their builds without the chemical assistance that would later dominate competitive bodybuilding, offering blueprints for natural muscle development that still work today. Their crazy diets weren't crazy because they failed. They were crazy because they succeeded despite breaking every rule we'd later claim was essential. That's the real legacy of old Hollywood diets. Proof that dedication and consistency matter more than perfect protocols.